Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another video, and this one, oh boy, we've had some news drop that quite possibly means we're going to have the 2024 event of the year on TV. Now, what could I be talking about? Is it the return of Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa? It's up there, but no. Is it the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest? It was, and may still be. However, we have had an announcement that on Christmas Day this year, 2024, we will be getting the final ever episode of Gavin and Stacey. Now, there are going to be some corners of you that are going to be like, yeah! And there are some corners of you that are going to be like, what? Essentially, this is like comedy TV history being made here. Just a quick bit of context, Gavin and Stacey was this little comedy show that first launched all the way back in 2007. It was on BBC Three, showing how Gavin and Stacey, like how they fell in love, how they came to be together, featuring their families as well, their best friends and stuff. It was a great little piece of telly. As the years went on, it progressed to eventually be on BBC One. It was a flagship comedy that would get primetime airing. And it originally came to the end at the end of the third season on New Year's Day 2010. And, you know, as many believe, that was it. The loose ends had been tied up. We'd reached the end point. Cool. And then 9 years later, on Christmas Day 2019, we got a brand new episode of Gavin and Stacey, showing these guys where they're at, 9 years down the line. And that ended on a pretty big cliffhanger. So if you haven't seen it and you want to find out spoilers, we're about to say it now. The cliffhanger featured Nessa, who was Stacey's best friend, proposing to Smithy, Gavin's best friend, because there'd been a lot of tension and it was just a big cliffhanger. And again, immediately people were like, well, there's got to be like a series 4, there's got to be another special, but there was radio silence for a long time. But now it seems we're getting the confirmation that the story will be wrapped up. Here's a statement from the BBC saying James Corden, Gavin and Stacey is returning for its final episode. He's ended speculation about new Gavin and Stacey material by announcing a final episode of the show will air on Christmas Day. Writing on Instagram, the former talk show host said, "It's official, we have finished writing the last ever episode of Gavin and Stacey." He added, "See you on Christmas Day, BBC One. Love, Ruth and James." It confirms the episode has been written with co-creator Ruth Jones, who has shared an on-screen relationship with Corden in the show. So this was a big deal. Great that obviously both James and Ruth, who are the original writers, creators of Gavin and Stacey, have returned to pen this together. I'd seen some rumours saying that if it was going to happen, maybe it'd just be Ruth that would do it, maybe it would just be James, but no, I'm so glad that they're doing it together as it always was. A report from Deadline in February said a new episode would involve most members of the original cast. This includes Matthew Horn and Joanna Page as Essex boy Gavin and his Welsh partner Stacey. Other cast members who look set to appear include Rob Brydon, who plays Stacey's uncle Bryn, and Alison Steadman and Larry Lamb, who play Gavin's parents Pamela and Mick. The last time we saw these characters was back in 2019 during another Christmas special. The episode, which was the first for 9 years, ended on a cliffhanger after Nessa proposed to Smithy. Viewers will be hoping to find out what has happened between Nessa and Smithy, but also to see how their on-screen son, Neil the baby, Noel Edmonds Smith, is doing. Noel Edmonds, that's a name that hasn't cropped up once or twice on this channel. The final episode of Gavin and Stacey could be a bittersweet moment for fans. The 2019 Christmas special was the most watched show in a decade, bringing in more than 17 million viewers. And this is what I'm talking about. Even though its original run was, between 2007 and 2010, and it gained its popularity then, it gained a decent audience share. But it's just in the years it's been off the air, it's become one of those shows that has just gradually kept being repeated. New generations are coming in to watch it. Old fans are rewatching it again and again. The legend, if you like, of Gavin and Stacey has been kept alive for all the years it's been off the air. So it was no surprise to me that when that 2019 Christmas special dropped, 17 million viewers, even then 5 years ago when streaming was still a thing, Netflix was around, Disney Plus was on the way, etc. That was a big, big win for traditional television. Running for 3 series between 2007 and 2010, it started off as a small BBC Three sitcom, but was soon shifted to BBC One. Set in both Essex and Wales, it has become a cult classic, despite only winning a handful of awards at the time. 2 BAFTA TV Awards in 2008, and 1 National TV Award in 2010. It also won a Must-See Moment BAFTA in 2020, voted for by the public, for the moment when Nessa proposed, quite rightly too. The show also picked up an Impact Award at the NTAs in 2020, showing its longevity in the comedy space. And it certainly has, whether it's the very down-to-earth writing from both James Corden and Ruth Jones, the characters are very relatable. I've watched Gavin and Stacey with people who have seen these characters and said, oh my God, this is so similar to my mum and dad or some of my friends or people I know. They really seem to nail that down-to-earth quality about these characters. And when I watched the 2019 Christmas special, obviously some things have changed. Everyone's 9 years older, certain attitudes in society have changed and stuff like that. But I felt the core essence of what Gavin and Stacey was about was still very much there in the episode. And I'd like to think for this grand finale, it will do so again. As you can see, the picture that was put on Instagram by James Corden, it's a picture of him and Ruth holding up the script, which is Gavin and Stacey, the finale, written by James Corden and Ruth Jones, 2024. So this is a culmination, or it will be, of 17 years. That's mad to say, 17 years of this program. Most comedy programs don't even see out a few years, never mind nearly 2 decades. And I think really this is only going to strengthen, again, like the mythos or the legend of Gavin and Stacey. I think it's only going to continue to be very popular amongst several generations, not just, my generation who grew up with it originally. With my history of it, I first saw Gavin and Stacey with the 2008 Christmas special. I was 12 years old at the time, was really starting to get into BBC Three stuff and like the sort of comedy that they offered, and obviously Gavin and Stacey came from that. After watching it, I made it my mission to go back and watch the first 2 series, which I loved. And then when Series 3 came out, we watched that as a family avidly. And indeed, we all sat down as a family on Christmas Day 2019 to watch the new Christmas special. And I think that's something that, TV rarely does now. In an age where everything's fragmented via streaming and everyone can have catch-up and there's multiple devices and stuff like that, to sit down as a full family to watch TV, it might not be the norm anymore, but it still can happen. And Gavin and Stacey, for my family at least, was always one of those programs. And I have no doubt that it will continue to do the same in 2024. This also means, by the way, we're going to have a stacked Christmas Day. You've got the 2024 Doctor Who Christmas special with Ncuti Gatwa. Obviously, we don't know much about that as of yet. At the time I'm recording this, we've still got his first full season to look forward to, but that's something. Then we've also got a brand new Wallace and Gromit from the guys at Aardman. So this was announced all the way back in early 2022, and because, Aardman, they work a lot with claymation, these films, they can't be made in a rush, they take a long time to make. So it was announced over 2 years ago, saying that it will return for a new film which will premiere exclusively on Netflix, with the exception of the UK, where it will debut first on the BBC. And I think that's a fantastic idea. Wallace and Gromit, most of its shorts have had a home on the BBC, particularly at Christmas. Lest we forget Matter of Loaf or Death, which was the last short that was made in 2008, and that pulled in insane numbers. In fact, let's take a look at them. So on that week, this is including 7-day data as well on catch-up, but, just look at the top 5. You had an episode of The Royal Family that had 10.6 million, very good. 2 episodes of EastEnders with 11.11 and 11.34 million, equally very good. Doctor Who, that was the next Doctor that year, 13.1 million. That show was peaking at the time at its apex, but look at number 1, Wallace and Gromit, Matter of Loaf or Death, 16.15 million. That is insane. And the fact that, Gavin and Stacey achieved a figure close to that 11 years on, when TV was a lot less prevalent in terms of traditional watching. Event television, man, I'm telling you. I think the new Wallace and Gromit film is going to do absolute numbers as well, especially if I believe it's premiering on Christmas Day. That's what I've heard. Again, that might change. It could be airing around Christmas time, maybe not Christmas Day, but I think they'd be daft if they didn't air it out on Christmas Day. Also, just back to 2008, look what's number 16. It's the Gavin and Stacey special, which had 7.19 million, which then, that's still quite successful. It was building its popularity still. It hadn't yet reached that sort of mad status that it has now. But for Christmas Day 2024 on BBC One, we're not going to see the schedules until months later down the line. But boy, if they're Doctor Who, Wallace and Gromit, and Gavin and Stacey, that's a triple bill to be rivaled with. If I was any of the other broadcasters, I'd be quaking in my boots. But overall, I'm just happy that we're getting closure on this program. Again, I know it's not for everyone. There might be some of you out there who don't particularly enjoy it, and that's absolutely fine. Comedy's subjective. I know James Corden is quite a controversial character in some circles. I mean, I personally loved him in Gavin Stacey. Some of the other work I've seen him in, like some of the films he's been in, I didn't necessarily rate it too much. I never really watched any of the clips when he did his Late Late show in America. It's just that kind of show is not really my thing. But I know he's quite divisive amongst certain circles. But I always maintain that I think writing with Ruth Jones, Gavin Stacey, is some of, if not the best work he's ever penned. So to have him and Ruth return to finally close this story, this grand story that spanned now 17 years, it's special, man. It really is. But let me know what you think. Are you excited that Gavin Stacey's coming back? Do you think that this will be the television event of the year? If you don't think that, well, let me know. What do you think is going to top it? What could possibly top something like this? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well. We'd love to have you aboard here with us. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Shaun Knock, Daud Khan, Liam De-Maine, Trev Hughes, Ajmac 200017, Deck KP20, Simon Harrison, Evan Hart 41, Jen, Ted Elliott, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, and Robert Oliphant, our AMTV staff members.